We are sorry that it's been so long.
Threes that I love so dear, bring the power of a new era to me!
What is going on, guys? This is Mac from Team Card Fighters United coming at you with a status update and a deck profile, kind of. It's more of an update. I wanted to go ahead and apologize for our lack of content the past, I think it's been like a month and a half. Me and Taico have been super busy. My camera's been acting up, his tripod is completely broken, and we haven't really had a lot of money to put into deck profiles, as well as I have lost a local shop. I no longer go to the locals that I used to go to, so I don't card fight in real life as much, so I don't record as much. I've been thinking of maybe going back to that card shop again to get more fights recorded, but until then, just sit tight. Anyway, with that out of the way, let's go ahead and get into this deck update. This is an updated version of my Giraffa deck. For those of you guys that don't pay attention to any of the set updates, the second tech booster came out and it had Mega Colony support, which included Giraffa cards, which helped the deck a lot. It boosted its mobility, and it basically strengthened its chain ability and its function. So let's just go ahead and get started. Still running Larva Mutant. It's a Giraffa deck. This is the best starter to run. If you ride the grade 1, you search for the grade 2. It's pretty easy. Gets you free ride chain. Next, we still run 4 of the original Giraffa. His skill is still really bad, but he still has Giraffa name, so we keep that. Now for the first new card in the deck, A-Rank Mutant Giraffa. He is a very, very good card. His skill is Vanguard and Rearguard, Counterblast 1. When it hits a Vanguard, if you have a grade 3 or greater Vanguard with Giraffa and its card name, you choose one of your opponent's Rearguards, rest it, and then until your opponent's next turn, that card gets the ability that when it's put into the drop zone from Rearguard or Guardian Circle, choose one of your own Rearguards and retire it, and that unit cannot stand during your opponent's next stand phase. So basically what this does is it makes it so that, say you stun a front row Rearguard, and then they decide to intercept with the Rearguard you stunned, they have to retire one of their own Rearguards as well in order to do that. They also, if they decide to call over it on their own turn, they also have to retire one of their other units in order to call over. So, very good card, just like all the other Giraffa stuff. It doesn't need to hit to go off, but with the way this deck works, the pressure makes it so that some columns are scarier than others, and usually this one's my really scary one. When done right, I can actually stun 3 units at once with the column I make with him. So, very good grade 3. Next, we run 4 of the original grade 2. His skill is Vanguard. He gets the +1 for the grade 1 being in the soul, and then if he hits a Vanguard, you can stun a Rearguard. So it's pretty simple. That skill is only on Vanguard though, so he's a 9k vanilla on Rearguard. But with the Stride, that 9k vanilla becomes an on-hit stun for 14k. So it's still worth running the Giraffa names. Next, we run the new grade 2, and the card that honestly fixed the ride chain problems with this deck, A-Rank Mutant Giraffa. His skill is Rearguard once per turn, Counterblast 1 if you have a Giraffa in your card name on the Vanguard, then you choose an opponent's Rearguard and rest it, and then this unit gets +2. That skill is really just to enable the stride, because you get the +5 only if all your opponent's rear guards are rest. So using this helps you achieve that. And then it's got a axe skill from hand. You discard it if your vanguard is the starter. You can search for the grade 1 and ride it, which essentially allows you to have this in your hand and drop it to grab the grade 1 and the grade 2 from the deck. So it fixes the ride chain issues that this deck used to have, makes it very, very good, and basically keeps it running. Also, it is an 11k attacker for counterblast, so replace Tailjaw. Alright, next card. Still run Papilio. On place, if you have a Mega Colony Vanguard, you stun something. It's pretty simple. It helps me combo with this turn. So, okay, on to grade 1s. We run 4 Pupa. Nothing new here. 4 Trigul, still nothing new. He's still the backbone of this deck, but Giraffa is actually starting to take his place. Then we still have 2 Battler B. This column right here, San and Battler B, can get me 3 stuns for 2 counterblasts on hit if I use the Giraffa stride, which can be very, very scary, and it's only ever hit like once because the column is that scary and people really, really don't want it to hit. So there's that. Next, we have changed to an actual Mega Colony Perfect Guard. It is no longer Sunny, and the reason being, Honeycomb Queen is honestly very, very good in this deck because its skill is G-Break 1, Dark Device, Soul Blast 1. When any of your units' attack hits, you can bounce it to your hand. So this deck doesn't really take advantage of Soul at all, so the Soul Blast isn't really an issue. And if you've noticed from how the skills work, a lot of them are on hit skills, so usually what happens is I like to pressure my opponent into taking at least 1 hit anyway, so if they happen to take 1 hit, then I can just bounce this back for free, and it's very nice. So it's a very good card in this deck. Now we go to triggers. We now run 8 crits. 4 of the new stand, which I swear looks like Miss Muffet from Undertale. Her skill is G-Break 1, Dark Device. Put it into the soul. At the end of each turn, you can pay the cost. If you do countercharge 1, choose one of your opponent's grade 1 or less units, and you stun it. So this is a very, very good card for the big Giraffa turns. Say you have Trigul and none of your attacks manage to hit, which does happen sometimes. If you have this on the board, you can put it into the soul, countercharge the counterblast you use for Goliath's skill, and get a free stun, and it essentially just guarantees your Trigul at the end of the turn. So it's a very nice card. It's definitely better than the other stand trigger we had because that required 3 rested units, which was really hard to pull off with this deck. But this one's just a free stun and countercharge at the end of a turn. So very, very good card. And then we still run 4 of Lamprey because most reliable heal in the clan. Alright, let's clean this up and then we'll get into the strides. Really only like 1 or 2 things have changed in the strides, but we'll just go over them anyway for people who haven't seen the other deck profile. Also, pretty soon I have another deck profile in the works. It's almost complete, but it's not quite there. So stay tuned for that. I intend to post that as soon as it's ready to go. So look forward to that one. It is not a budget deck by any means. It actually took me quite a while to finally put this deck together. So I am very, very excited for it. Alright, let's go ahead and get into this. For the strides, We still run one Parasphere just because resting your opponent's units is kind of crucial in this deck, because this card relies on the units being rest. Its skill is on place, rest all of your opponent's units. Then if there are 3 or more, then you draw a card and give 5,000 power to Parasphere. So it becomes a 31 or a 30, depending on if you're on original Giraffa or the new Giraffa when you stride this. And it gets you a free draw, as well as resting everything that needs to be rested. So one of that, I usually don't use it, but in the event that I do need it, it's nice to have in there. We run 4 Goliath. Goliath's skill is once per turn, counterblast 1. If you have a heart card with Giraffa in its card name, which you always will because all 8 grade 3s are Giraffas now, you can choose up to 6 of your units with Giraffa in their card name, and they all get the continuous skill that if all of your opponent's rear guards are resting, which usually they are, and if they're not, you can use like Giraffa to make them rest. If all of your opponent's rear guards are resting, then the Giraffa unit gets +5. This stacks onto every Giraffa that you have. So if you have a full field of Giraffas, you've got a full field of 10k plus columns. So it's a very nice skill. It also gives the effect that every single Giraffa gets the ability that if it hits a Vanguard, then you choose a rear guard and it can't stand. So this card is what makes the deck so, gives it so much pressure, because if anything hits, then they have to deal with the consequences. And unless they're like God tier pulling all of their guard power, they're probably going to let 1 or 2 hit. So they're going to have to deal with that. Next, I run 3 Stun Beetle. I still run Stun Beetle. I might change it later, but for now I'm still running 3 just because the first one usually just gets perfect guarded, so I don't ever use a skill, and then the second one they either don't have a perfect guard or they're just out of it at that point, and they'll take it so I can flip the other one over. His skill is Counterblast 2 and choose a copy of him and flip it face up. When he hits, you choose your opponent's Vanguard and it can't stand, and then they can't normal ride. So it makes it so that they can't stride a standing unit, they can't ride again, and it messes with them for a turn. So decent card, but the on hit still hinders him. That's it for actual strides. I do run 2 of each generation guard. This one gets +5 if they have 2 or more rested units when it's put to Guardian, and this one is a CB1. When it's placed on Guardian, you rest all of the opponent's units in the back row, and it gets +5 shield for every 2 rested units. So if your opponent happens to be in Legion and they attack with their Vanguard, then you can rest their whole back row, and you should get +15k because there's 2 units on the Vanguard, and if they have a full back row and they swung with a rear guard column, then that's 2, 4, and then the 2 units on Vanguard, so that's +15 because 5 for every 2. So it's a decent card. It does pump numbers. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Like I said, I apologize for the lack of content recently. We are working to fix it, but with our busy schedules, it's been kind of hard. I will work to put up some of the content that we've got ready to go, and I will also work on that new profile that I was referring to earlier. So look forward to that. I don't really have anything else to say. This has been Mac from Team Card Fighters United, and remember, meta is disgusting. See you guys.